The mass hysteria in British newspapers this morning about the events at Glastonbury yesterday, where 200,000 people essentially took part in a pro-Palestinian uprising of Britain's youth, cannot disguise the fact that the country, and indeed the whole of the Western world, at least on the popular level, has moved seismically. The plates have shifted. Nobody cares about Israel anymore. Palestine is the story. It is the moral center of the universe, and those now caught on the wrong side of the line, on the genocide taking place in Gaza for more than 20 months, are damned surely in history, even if, like Alastair Campbell, they're making a last desperate scramble to change sides, even if, like Piers Morgan, they are making a last frantic effort to pretend that they are on the side of the angels. The receipts are in our possession. Those that backed and supported, enabled, funded, armed, and shilled for the worst set of atrocities since the Holocaust in the Second World War and in the years leading up to it are all damned forever. The Israeli soldier who told the Israeli media, it's amazing what you can read in the Israeli media that you would never be allowed to read in the British or American media. He told the Israeli media that he felt like the Nazi, and he felt like the Palestinian victims of the so-called IDF they were the Jews. It is one of the most telling couplets of the whole conflict, of the whole chapter of genocide over the last 20 months. The Israelis were behaving like the Nazis. The Palestinian victims were like the Jews. He is a student at Harvard University, and as students do, he had gone back to Israel to get into uniform, climb behind an automatic weapon, and go killing Palestinian children in Gaza. And he would ordinarily have been welcomed back at Harvard, ordinarily have been welcomed back to his bank job or any other kind of job that these expatriate Israelis currently do. One of them was a university chaplain in Manchester University, came back from killing Palestinians in Gaza and wondered why the students didn't welcome him back with open arms. But this soldier in question would ordinarily have been more than welcome back at Harvard, but now he's facing expulsion. Not for the crimes that he committed in Gaza, but for the words that he used in describing them. I just felt that this was, if you like, the peak or the trough of the current situation that we are in. I just felt that that couplet, we were the Nazis, they were the Jews, summed everything up. The mass slaughter continues. The slaughter at the feeding stations continues with scores of people, sometimes 100 and more, being murdered at a feeding station run by an American relief organization, but staffed by Israelis. That feeding station is supposed to be the concession that the international community made to the presence of famine stalking the land. But virtually every single day, scores, when it is not hundreds, of Palestinians are murdered there as they desperately seek food and water. It is now, again, according to a Harvard University study, likely that we have been grossly underestimating the number of Palestinians killed in Gaza over the last 20 months. It may very well be that 500,000 nearly Palestinian refugees, for almost everybody in Gaza is already a refugee, even before all this began on October the 8th, the year before last. these hundreds of thousands of refugees who are, and I stress the word refugee for this reason, the responsibility legally of the international community, of the United Nations, have been massacred, not just by shot and shell, not just by bomb and rocket, but by deliberately inflicted famine. They have died of thirst. They have died of lack of food. And now some of the food being distributed in the Gaza Strip has been found to have been laced by a highly addictive pain-killing drug. I'm not making any of this up, amazingly. Amazingly, all of this is true and uncontested, except by Ben Goldsmith, who had to be rebuked by Jemima Khan, his own sister, on social media today. Ben, you should be ashamed of yourself. I'm certainly ashamed to have once described you as a friend of mine. It's not been debunked, Ben. It's been proven. It has been proven by the Israeli media themselves. The Haaretz newspaper, which is the last remaining tiny candle, like a candle on a birthday cake, of anything remotely approachable as honesty and truth, has told us exactly what's happened. And the Israeli soldiers involved in the mass murder are telling us everything too. So all around the world, millions, hundreds of millions actually, now bristle with hatred and detestation against anything called Israel. And that's what was on view at Glastonbury yesterday. Except it wasn't meant to be on view. When Kneecap came onto the stage, the BBC, which had tried hard to have them banned from Glastonbury in the interest of cultural freedom and freedom of speech, you must understand, they failed to have them banned from the stage. Keir Starmer, the Prime Minister, failed to have them banned from the stage. So as soon as they came on the stage, the BBC cut the feed of Glastonbury, for which they had paid a fortune in BBC licence payers' money. They cut the feed and cut to another stage. But not only are these people malignant, cancerous, they're also fools, because they cut to a stage where somebody that we'd never heard of, called Bob Villain, was even more rampantly anti-Israel and pro-Palestinian than Kneecap were. I'm not going to repeat the words that he said, although the people who are in a paroxysm of fury about the chant that he led have been utterly silent, while children have been murdered in their thousands upon thousands upon thousands. And you have been silent, and you want to get us riled up about a chant at Glastonbury? What kind of hypocrites are you? Labour MPs, somebody called Tap Out Ben Tapp MP, who just described on Twitter how utterly depressed he is that people were chanting death to the IDF at Glastonbury, but he hasn't said one word about the crimes, war crimes, crimes against humanity carried out by the IDF on his phone, available on YouTube for over 20 months. These hypocrites are so beneath contempt, it's almost difficult to find the words to wither them with. But they cut to Bob Villain, who presumably is now an international superstar. I'd never heard of him before. His music's not my kind of music. Has gone viral everywhere. And I'm sure his downloads on Spotify are doing well also. He turns out to be a man with a double-barreled name from the United States, who's been supporting Palestine since he was 15 years old. So the BBC could easily have checked his social media when they cut from kneecap to him, but they're idiots as well as knaves. Kneecap themselves, well, they seem to have had a relatively uncontroversial outing at Glastonbury, and good luck to them, because, as Mo Farah, the lead singer, said when he came on the stage, "I am a free man." Most of us thought it was a metaphor, but it was literally true. The terrorism charge, yes, terrorism charge, on which he appeared in court last week for holding a flag that somebody handed to him when he was on stage, has been dropped in total ignominy. The British state authorities that last week had a court hearing, brought the man to court last week, have now dropped all charges against him. And the reason for that is plain. There is no jury anywhere in the land, or many lands, who would convict the guy standing up against the genocide, whilst the British government is in full support of the genocide. There's no jury anywhere that would have found Mo Farah guilty, so they have dropped all charges against him. And the Avon and Somerset police are such idiots, they put out a tweet saying they were reviewing the video of this Bob villain. Don't be stupid, PC Dixon. Why don't you go and investigate some real crimes? Why don't you investigate the crime of the British Prime Minister, who said that Israel had the right to starve people to death, to deny them food, water, medicine, electricity? I know his name. I even know where he lives. In fact, there's Ukrainian rent boys that could tell you where he used to live. Whatever happened to that case? Why do the wheels of justice in Britain grind so exceeding slow for some cases, but not for others? That woman Connolly didn't grind very slow for her, and she's rotting behind bars. Very swift was that justice. But Dan Norris, the Labour MP, who's facing multiple rape and child sex charges, we're not going to see him in court until well into next year. Ivor Kaplan, the former Labour MP, former leader of the Labour Friends of Israel, he was caught on camera going to meet a child for underage sex. When's his case coming up? How come Kneecap were in court so quick? Why are you able to drop some charges so quick? I tell you, this government is making a mockery, not just of the justice system, but of the police force themselves. Why don't you go and investigate some real crimes, copper, and leave the rising tide of support for the Palestinian people alone? Because it's not a crime. If most people in the country are with them, it is not a crime. And neither is throwing red paint on a warplane. That's all. Not bursting its tires, not disabling its engine, still less unfastening its bombs. Throwing red paint on a warplane that, it turns out, doesn't even belong to the Royal Air Force or the Ministry of Defence or the British government or the British people. It belongs to a hedge fund. We rent warplanes from hedge funds. The crime was not throwing red paint on that airplane. The crime was that that airplane was destined to fly to Cyprus and thence to Gaza to assist and facilitate the genocide which is now so comprehensively hated by the people of our country and around the world. You see how we've got this arse for elbow, Prime Minister Starmer? Whoever it was in your government that advised you to move heaven and earth to convict Mo Cara of kneecap is such an idiot. I very much hope that you don't fire them. Keep them. Let them make mistake after mistake so that your premiership is soon nailed in its political coffin, as it is surely destined to do. Now, we ran a poll this evening. Will the Israel-Iran ceasefire hold? 31,721 of you have already voted, but I can give you the answer, though you're welcome to keep voting. Netanyahu was supposed to appear in court tomorrow. The judge was not moved by Donald Trump's order to the Israeli justice system to drop the charges against his war hero buddy, Benjamin Netanyahu. But the judge says, fuck off, Donald. This is a court. You don't get to order us what to do. And so Netanyahu was due in court tomorrow. But now he isn't. And he isn't because in a late night and secret session last night, the Israeli armed forces and the Mossad and Netanyahu himself persuaded the judge there's going to be very, very big events this week, and it would be very inconvenient to the Zionist state if the Prime Minister were in court at the time. So it's not going to hold. And our old friends, Channel 13 in Israel, have just announced that there's going to be massive military action launched this week by Israel against Iran. And this time, they said, it will be unexpected. Like the last time, the sneak attack which killed so many Iranians, families, women, children, neighbors of scientists and other public officials in Iran. Oh no, this time it's going to be unexpected, which may very well mean that it is happening right about now. I hope that Iran is better prepared this time than it was last time. I have a strong feeling that they are. This is the mother of all talk shows. Stay tuned.